Welcome to the Anthony and Todd Show. On behalf of Trevor Abley, I'm Vincent Thomas Short, and we got an extra special interview lined up today with Washington-based Plunderphonics mastermind Slap Serif, who put out a fantastic album earlier this year called Voice Inside the Music, which I've been bumping all summer, and he just put out a collaboration with Washington-based rapper Rhetorician called I Think We Killed Bigfoot, and he also released the instrumentals to that project, both which you can find on Spotify and Bandcamp. We had a fantastic interview with him. He was a great guest. We talked about everything from his creative process to some of his aspirations in music, as well as the Neverhood, which was a very hype moment of the interview. Without any further ado, let's get straight into the interview with Slap Serif.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to the Anthony and Todd Show. We are here with Slap Serif. What's going on, Slap?
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Hey, of course, thanks for being here. As Vincent probably mentioned in the pre-recorded intro, which I haven't heard yet because I'm live right now, Slap just came out with his brand new album. Well, it's a couple months old, The Voice Inside the Music, and we have been bumping that for quite a while now. It's an honor to be talking to the artist behind all of this. Slap, how did you first get into making music?
Okay, so that's a story. There's no real story, you know. It's a similar thing where like, oh, I get a drum kit for like Christmas at maybe like 6 years old, and that becomes too annoying, so I have to like do something with headphones on. My dad has some kind of like DAW going on his computer, and I start playing around with like a loop pack, and then get into middle school, start getting into electronic music when that's happening, and figure out what Ableton is. Then I get way into hip hop after that, and it kind of just evolves into what I have now. That's a terrible answer. I apologize. I have not thought about like my history as an artist until right now.
Well, like usually people don't have this like iconic starting moments. It's usually just simple like that. Like your inspiration starting, you mentioned hip hop. Was it like the usual people like Dilla, Madlib, maybe like Doom, or even potentially like the Avalanches?
Okay, so the first hip-hop CD that I ever had was actually Ill Communication by the Beastie Boys. And that's not the one with the plane on it. I'm talking about the one where the guy is holding the toaster through the like drive-through window.
Oh, yes.
Like that album. I probably heard it, I want to say when I was about like 3 on my dad's like classic iPod, which maybe older than 3, like 5 or something. But I remember that cover very clearly. And I remember just listening to that album when we were driving on vacation in California. And obviously I didn't know what a sample was yet, but I was just like super into the jazz punk, like very like just various like record samplage influence going on to that record. It's still their best in my opinion, like even past Paul's Boutique, which is a very hot take. But I'm gonna make it.
That's a very hot take. I'm a big fan of Paul's Boutique.
I'm a fan of both. I got both in my car at all times, but
sure,
you know, I think they really came into their prime. They actually recording, you know, actual instruments on that album, trying to like replicate the records that they're sampling all the time. I don't know. I'm into it, and it got me to where I am right now. Also, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4, the soundtrack to that game, played that from a very early age. So I did have the loop pack. They have a song on there, which Madlib produced for like very early, just hearing that over and over again. And then like De La Soul and just groups like that definitely like got me to where I am right now.
I feel like no one really wants to admit, but I think that just about anybody that owned a gaming console was probably influenced in music taste by the Guitar Hero soundtracks and Tony Hawk soundtracks.
Oh, absolutely. My brother is actually the one who really got the Guitar Hero influence. Like he is a very like talented guitar player now, and it's purely because he was like, I have to beat my cousins at Guitar Hero.
That's interesting. You mentioned your dad's band off mic or off the record, and you just mentioned your brother being a very skilled guitarist. It seems like you come from a very musical family.
Oh yeah. It was very important that I like took piano lessons from an early age. My dad and mom are very much like apparently I was like playing an xylophone and trying to like sound out Twinkle Twinkle Little Star like very early, so they're like, oh, we should probably make use of that and like develop those skills, which I'm very, very thankful for, because my dad is been a music fan, like lover and player. He's also a very talented guitar. Like both, my dad and my brother are like incredible. And I decided to not go in that route just because of competition reasons, like there's no way that I can compete with like two amazing guitarists in my family. I got to do my own thing.
That's kind of an old school versus new school mindset. Are they supportive of you using electronic devices, or your more electronic path, I guess?
Oh yeah, for sure. It took a while for them to like kind of understand what I'm doing, like the technical side of it, but like
sure,
they've always been like, yeah, this is a cool sound you got going, and yeah, I have no complaints about that.
You mentioned the Beastie Boys, you mentioned the Tony Hawk Pro Skater soundtrack. Who are some of your other like influences as far as just production goes?
So I actually had someone on Reddit when I posted my album to r/the Avalanches, because I'm a huge fan, say that they tracked down exactly who I'm influenced by. And I saw the list and I had to agree. So that would be the Avalanches, Boards of Canada, Bibio, Jay Dilla, Madlib, obviously that whole like Stones Throw scene.
Sure.
Aphex Twin, like that kind of stuff, even like IDM, Warp Records. And then right now, because there's a difference between like the producers that I'm inspired by and the records that I listen to that inspire me to make stuff, I guess. So I would say for at least this recent record, I've been very, very much into BMP, Brazilian music. That's been really catching my ears recently, like Arthur Verocai, just jazz influenced, almost like Led Zeppelin style stuff even coming out of this country. I'm new to it. I'm not knowledgeable enough to like really make any definitive statements.
How did you get into that kind of scene?
YouTube e-digging,
I see.
like I don't actually sample off of vinyl records that much. I know that's kind of a controversial thing.
Doesn't that break one of the sampling commandments?
It might, but I don't have like $500 to drop on like a single the most. What's the most expensive record I've ever bought? The Electric Prunes, Holy Are You, I think. I spent like $50 on because it's a Christian record actually that has just the most amazing bass lines on it that I've ever heard, like out of nowhere. So I've been digging that too, but I don't have the money to drop on the amount of samples that I'm using, to be honest. So I've been going to YouTube because there's pretty clean recordings of pretty much anything that you would ever want to hear just sitting around there,
Yeah, it's tough out here, and it's actually, I think, rejuvenating to see young people that are breaking those commandments. Like, you're obviously aware of the rules or whatever, but to break them, I think, shows that you have a mastery over that and are using your resources. Like, you're right. People don't have that kind of money to spend on clean recordings of records anymore, so it's good that people are not always adhering to that.
And it's kind of a dodgy game, because like a lot of the YouTube channels that I do find that have the music that I want to sample, like I'll go back and subscribe to them, and then like maybe a month later they'll be gone. Like YouTube gets rid of it. And I know if you ever want to get into like the copyright side of the sampling argument, like there is a lot going on there that I'm sure that my music falls under, that I can make some arguments for or against, but aren't really familiar with the legal side of it. You know what I mean?
Right. I've been really digging the RO Wilderness recently. It seems like a very personal release. Yeah.
Okay.
I've been checking that out on Bandcamp quite a bit.
That is kind of, I guess that was 2 years ago now. I was like, I'm going to make an actual album. And I did. And then I went back and was like, I could have changed a whole lot about this production wise, and I'm just going to leave it and continue on and hope that nobody hears it. But if you like it, I am very happy to hear that.
I do. I really enjoy it. And it seems like a very personal release for you. How did you decide which tracks to sample on here?
I guess it's just what I'm listening to at the time. Like, usually when I'm working on a project, I won't like go after a certain theme necessarily, because I do like to sample from as many genres as possible and kind of combine them. Mm-hmm. But like I went on a big like King Crimson bender for a while, so I was like, oh, this certain melodies will like just get stuck in my head that you know when you like hear a song and then you think you know it, but then you hear it later and you had it completely wrong.
Oh, absolutely.
So I'll try to take that wrong version that I had in my head almost and like recreate that sometimes as like a kind of a creative technique. So yeah, I'll hear something, I'll just be like, damn, that's a great melody. Oh wait, I had that completely wrong. I'm gonna use the melody I had in my head anyways. Like I can do that, you know.
What if you make the wrong song a reality? That's really interesting. I noticed some pretty big names on there, obviously on the cover, and then just knowing some of the songs. I saw Michael Jackson from Off the Wall like on the cover, and I love that Rule track that you did, as well as the Nothing Will It remix. What a great party track. Some Frank Sinatra, the Neverhood soundtrack.
Oh my god, we're talking the Neverhood now?
If you want, let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. There are Neverhood secrets in almost every single project I've released. There's little tiny samples from that game. I put them everywhere because that game is like it's like a dream state childhood memory that I have.
Would you go as far to say that's like your favorite game?
No, that'd have to be Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Oh,
yeah.
So good.
I'd be lying to myself. I have so many hours in that game. It's incredible.
Do you prefer the first Roller Coaster Tycoon or 2 or 3?
Okay. So the first one has the best scenarios. Like level design wise, the first one, you can't beat it. Most imaginative there. 2 has better mechanics, but the level design is not as great. And then 3 is just kind of garbage. And that's okay.
Oh, thank God. I hate 3.
Hot take. 3's my favorite. I don't care.
No, shut
I
up,
understand
Vincent.
where you're coming from because as a child, I played 3 the most, but that's just because you could actually ride the rides and that was a cool thing. But have you looked at that game recently?
No. Basically, all my memories are 3 have been replaced with Planet Coaster, which is pretty much the same game.
Yeah, this is a roller coaster podcast now. You guys live in Ohio. You have Cedar Point like right next to you.
Yeah, we do.
We have Kings Island too, but you have to wear a mask when
Oh.
you get on the rides.
I'm not going anywhere anytime soon, but like my dream as a child was to go to Ohio and ride rides at Cedar Point and Kings Island, and I finally got to do that a couple years ago. Y'all are so lucky. You don't even know.
We're living your dream, baby.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's really funny that you mentioned that because Vincent pointed out that your font on your Hoods project was the Roller Coaster Tycoon font.
Pretty much, yeah.
I loved it. That was so funny.
So you guys went in pretty deep. You looked at my old stuff.
It's all out there, you know?
I know. I haven't deleted it yet. I didn't think that anyone would find it. It's like, I mean, on my Bandcamp page, it is right there. But I mostly look at my SoundCloud and you like start going like years and years back and you're like, I should probably just get rid of this stuff. Like, I think it's a detriment to my image at this point.
You know, I was kind of going to get into that a little bit later, but if we're talking about it now, let's talk it. You've written that you felt like the RL Wilderness wasn't super complete, and then you literally just told me that like you felt like it could have been improved on. Do you feel like having it up shows the growth that you've made as an artist?
I guess so. Like, I'm not embarrassed by any of the music I've made. Like, at some point, I was really, really feeling it. And at that point, that was just the best project that I could have made at the time. But my philosophy is that I never want to be in a situation where I just go years and years without putting anything out and then no one hears from me. I'd rather just have my best work, because whatever I release is like what I see as my best work at the time. And even if I don't like it afterwards, like, you know, it's just going to be there. People only really pay attention to the latest stuff anyways. It's not like I really have a legacy yet, you know?
Yeah, I understand that. Personally, well, I already told you, like, I really enjoyed the RL Wilderness. I know that Vincent did as well. That feels like your most Avalanches project so far. This feels very much so like your Since I Left You kind of thing.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I'd be lying if like Avalanches wasn't like the main inspiration in general that I have for like, not even for like the actual songs they make, but how they structure a project is incredible. Like, I really, any album that can like take you out of your room that you're sitting in, like on a journey, is something that I really aspire to. I mean, especially like during tough times like these, like being able to be taken out of your own head is like really important. And I think, yeah, I'm basically after that experience all the time. So Avalanches, it just rips you out of your seat and you're on a journey in your own mind, and it's just all there in your head almost. That's kind of a weird way to describe it, but yeah, I take that idea, and I try to apply it to all my projects, and especially the Arlo Wilderness. That was like, okay, I'm gonna sequence these tracks in a particular way that feels like I'm like, I don't know if you guys checked this out on my YouTube channel, but my friend Cody made an entire like full length visualizer to that album out of like sampled material and filmed himself like tubing down a river, which I think perfectly describes that album. It feels like I'm tubing down a river through some psychedelic experience or something like that. But yeah, I'm glad you guys like it.
What do you think of the current state of the Avalanches right now? Just out of curiosity.
So if you go to the r/Avalanches sub on Reddit, there's a bunch of hot takes being thrown around right now. Oh man, they've completely changed their sound. Their new track sounds more like Jamie XX than the actual Avalanches. Mm-hmm. You know what? If I was in their situation, I hadn't released an album for years and years, I finally got that one out. Like, sample clearance takes a long time. Like, it's super hard to do. You need to have someone like on your team doing that. I'm sure that they feel like they just want to be able to make something current and in the time that they have left on this earth, and not take another 30 years to release another project. And I completely support that. And I love how their new stuff sounds too. It's very, very spacey, and it's very emotional. And, you know, I've cried a little bit to some of the new tracks. Like, they're very teary.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that their new sound is also very interesting. Let's move on to one of your newest projects here. The Rhetorician and you put out I Think We Killed Bigfoot pretty recently. How did you get involved with the Rhetorician? How'd you meet him? So
I've been in Bellingham for about 5 years now, just going to college. And I always wanted to get into a music scene. Especially there's a really cool hip-hop producer scene up here in Bellingham, and there's a bunch of amazing rappers too. However, I didn't talk to anybody in that scene at all for like probably 3 years now, I guess. I'm just a very shy person. However, I heard the Rhetorician on SoundCloud. I forgot how someone mentioned his name at some point, and I just decided, you know what, I'm just gonna message him on SoundCloud and see what happens. And he is the nicest dude ever. No one responds to SoundCloud messages. Like, it's not a thing. If you go to the app, you can't even access, the messages. So I'm surprised we got in contact at all. But he is one of the best rappers that I know. Honestly, like, I'm not even trying to say like, oh, in the local scene, like, he's one of the best. Like, he has some serious skills and a completely unique sound. I'm in love with him. So obviously, I wanted to produce for him. And it's just been a constant back and forth of like, oh, what can we do with both of our sounds, combining them? And Bigfoot is a very Northwest hip hop project, which I don't think that's really a scene that people think of. But yeah, I want you to think of like being deep into forest, being chased down by Smokey the Bear and Bigfoot when you're listening to this.
Oh, okay. So Smokey's nemesis just made sense to me right now.
Oh, yeah. No, Bigfoot is Smokey's nemesis.
So is the Rhetorician from Washington as well? I maybe
he's
missed
from
that.
Philly originally, but he's been in Washington for a bit now.
I see.
Yeah.
Have you produced alongside any other rappers?
Here and there, but nothing. I have something in the works right now with Memphis Reigns, who had... He had a CD out a very long time ago that was a very big underground hit, and he is still just as good, if not even more talented than he was then. And just an incredible rapper who hit me up on Instagram after hearing my beats. So I have my first vinyl release coming out with him like very soon, which is a dream come true, and I have him to thank for that, like for just reaching out to me, which again, I'm a very shy person, like I rarely do that.
We'll get back to the interview in just 1 second. I just want to take a little second to promote our Patreon, which you can find at patreon.com/The Anthony and Todd Show. We have some great reward tiers, whether it's us reviewing a track of your choosing, or asking us a question, or getting your name in the fantastic audio credits at the end of this podcast. It's a nice way to support us if you're a fan of the show and you want to show your support monetarily, but it's not really recommended. You can also share the show Share the podcast, share the YouTube video, share it any way you can. Spread it word of mouth. It doesn't really matter. You can also find us at Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Anthony and Todd. You can find me on Twitter at The Vincent Short. You can find Trevor on Twitter at Alistair McCallis. And with all the self-promotion out of the way, let's get back into the interview with Slap Serif.
Like you just mentioned that you're a shy person, and we talked about the r/Avalanches a little bit. Do you feel anxious when you have to put yourself out there and put your music up for display for everybody to kind of critique?
Not really. I think my music's pretty okay. Like, I'm not afraid of... No one has ever come out to me like, this is bad and you should stop. So I've let it it's got to my head, and I just at this point believe that my music is at least pretty okay, and people will at least get a little kick out of it, if nothing else. So I am not embarrassed of it at all at this point. Talking to people in person, different deal, but online, you put your stuff out there, it's either no one is going to respond to it or someone's going to say something usually pretty nice.
That's a good way to look at it then.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel like producing alongside another musician is more rewarding to you, or do you enjoy making music just for the sake of the music?
Well, everything that I make starts out as just making music for the sake of it. And then if it goes anywhere, I usually introduce another artist into it. But I mean, just from the genesis, like if you look at like my Ableton project folder, first of all, my naming conventions are absolutely terrible, but just the amount of little tiny things that aren't really music yet and are just like little sketches or ideas that are just going to sit on my hard drive until it eventually burns out. Like 5% of those are actually going to turn into songs, So yeah, I really believe in just like experimenting as much as possible from like the very beginning. And then if it turns into something good, maybe rein it in a little bit into something, listenable.
Who would be a dream artist for you to collaborate with, if you could pick anybody?
Well, first of all, if any artist wanted to collaborate with me, I would usually say yes. It's a weird question because there's a bunch of producers that I think I would like to work with, but then I think a lot of producers kind of have the mindset, especially when they get a little bit more successful, where it's like, I have something very, it's working for me. And I just want to be like alone in my room doing my thing. At least on the hip hop side, like that's kind of the trend I've noticed. But I don't know. Let me do some punch up work real quick. Apparently, the people that I want to collaborate with are A.G. Cook, Royksop, Sebastian, Andy Stott, Series-Mo. Oh my god, I would love to work with Series-Mo. That could happen. I've been actually cold emailing a lot of people that remix my music recently. It goes surprisingly well. You would not believe how many people are just like, okay, yeah.
You were talking about the hip-hop producers that you kind of worked alongside or went to school alongside in Washington. Do you feel like you had any real competition for the type of music that you were making?
So I would say no, because funnily enough, at least the producers that I am friends with in Bellingham and like are familiar with, everyone has entirely their own sound going on, at least to my ears. Like, obviously there's a bunch of people like slinging samples and doing interesting stuff with it. If you check out like the Black Noise Records roster, the little collective that I'm part of, you're not going to hear anything on there that sounds like remotely similar to each other, because everyone is very independent out here. I feel like obviously like there's a bunch of collaboration going on as well, but yeah, I don't know. There's, the Seattle Freeze, like,
yeah,
antisocial personality of the Northwest. That is only half true. We usually just, producers out here, they only share their work if it's like really getting heated and like something's cooking that's pretty good. But otherwise, like I'm just sitting in my room out here like making my own beats. Check out Clefto, actually. He is the guy who actually signed me on to Black Noise Records, who's a producer himself. I look up to him incredibly, and he is like probably the first producer that I've actually gone into the studio with that like we can make something together that sounds really good. So yeah, look out for some Clefto Slap Serif collaborations coming out pretty soon.
So Black Noise is the collective that you're a part of. Could you maybe give us a little bit of background on them?
Yeah, well, it's a thing that's existed for a bit, but kind of died down for a while and is kind of coming back now. We're not really signing. We're signing like one new artist, I think, but It's just a bunch of Klefta's friends. Basically, he goes out and like if he likes a producer, he usually will hit them up to release something through the label, basically. So it's not really an organization thing. It's more of just like Klefta's knowledge base of Washington producers that are actually like know their stuff.
So your Voice Inside the Music record.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a minute. It's more of a like continuous stream of music, and as you've said, is best enjoyed cover to cover, correct?
Yeah, that is the intention. I spent a lot of time after all the tracks were like well made and done and everything, just like kind of making transitions in between those. So you might hear, if you're listening to it, you might hear like little segue beats that come in. Some of those are part of the original song. A lot of those I just like tried to produce specifically a bridge in between two songs after I got the track order together.
Yeah, it flows very, very nicely. Did you find it difficult to create a large work like that?
Well, I want to say that it took me probably a year and a half to bring Voice Inside the Music to completion, but I really didn't have the same vision when I started that I had when I was kind of like really in working specifically to like complete that project.
How did that change?
Well, it started out, the first couple of tracks I made were like the Rain song and like This Old Machine. And I was starting to get into this production groove of, I want to say like I finally found the sound that I want to actually continue with and make more music like that in the future. So yeah, I made the Rain song, Can't Say Goodbye, and This Old Machine kind of like all in a row. And I was like, damn, this is great. I love this. I love my own music. Finally, I need to like continue to this production path and see where it takes me. So it kind of did shift after a while from the beginning to be like, oh, okay, I'm going to actually get some vocal artists involved in this project. Like I got Chris Evans and Rhetorician on some tracks, both incredibly talented Bellingham musicians. Some of the tracks I actually sang on myself, which I never thought I would do in a million years, but I was like, I need a vocal part for this. Yeah. Blue Train and Pleasant Things are entirely me.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I'm not trained whatsoever, so it took a lot of post-processing to make my voice sound like usable at all, but I did the work and I'm really happy with how it turned out.
Was that a scary process for you?
Not scary, just time consuming and like frustrating.
I see.
Yeah. Man, I can't pull it up right now because it's like deep in my hard drive, but I probably had like 16 different effects with the dry wet knob at like 0.5%, just like little tiny touches. Like, oh, I need to take this off and add a little bit of this. So it doesn't really sound like me anymore, but that's kind of what I wanted. And I double tracked everything as well.
Where is the Neverhood secret in this album?
I'm not telling, man. It's deep. This one is actually really deep, so you're going to have to look for a while.
Play the album in reverse. It's actually the Neverhood soundtrack.
That's all it is.
I will reveal on all RO Wilderness, it's pretty easy to spot. Like most of it is just taking that guy Willie talking. Once you collect all the clips finally, and you like finally put them into the player and they play the whole story. That story is almost biblical in a way. It has that like weird, like very like historical feel to it. So I'm like, I'm just going to kind of incorporate this in here.
I love like point and click adventures. I love like Grim Fandango and Broken Age and all those games. Like some of my absolute favorites. I just grew up on that stuff. So as soon as I saw Clayman on the cover, I was like, man, that's so cool.
Have you guys played the sequel?
No, the Skull one?
No. Recently, Doug TenNapel, the creator of that game.
Is this the Armicrog?
Yeah.
Did you like that?
I haven't beat it. It's too hard. I have a very small brain for that kind of game. It took me a long time to beat Neverhood, man. It took me a long time. I didn't look anything up, but like it took me years.
That's a true test of skill is not using the walkthrough.
I was raised on games like Myst, where it's like, if you don't figure this out yourself, then like kind of feels like you're cheating.
You'll never move past it.
Yeah.
I saw that Voice Inside the Music was getting a physical release. Is this the first physical release that you've done?
Technically, yes, it is. It has a CD out right now. You can buy it on my Bandcamp.
What is that process like?
It takes money. You have to pay for it. I basically, me and Nico, Klefto, we just sat down and was like, all right, we're going to go on CD Baby and find like a good number of CDs to make. I did all the graphic design work myself, basically. And after that, you just send the tracks in after they're mastered, and CDs come back. It's very magic, nice and simple.
Is that exciting for you to have that, a piece of Slap Serif history that you can put on your shelf?
Oh, I love it. Like, I'm a huge CD and vinyl collector. More CD than vinyl, actually, like number-wise, but yeah, my car doesn't have Bluetooth. It has an aux cord now, but like for a while, it was just like, I have CDs and that's about it. So I became a huge CD collector. So to have my own CD, like it just feels nice, and like I accomplished something for sure.
So that's it for this interview. We're going to play you a special treat off of Slap Serif's new instrumental album, the accompaniment with his collaboration with the Rhetorician called I Think We Killed Bigfoot. It's the track Serif. We're going to play that for you right now. I want to thank you guys for listening. And Slap, do you have anything else to say to the audience before we play this track?
Not much. If you've heard my music before, I really appreciate you guys going out and listening to it and experiencing it. If not, if you like music, it is that, and you'll probably like it.
This has been episode 2 of the Anthony and Todd Show featuring Slap Serif, who put out the fantastic album Voices Side of the Music earlier this year, which you can find on Bandcamp and Spotify and Apple Music. And you can even buy CDs of at slapserif.bandcamp.com. He just put out a project with the Rhetorician called I Think We Killed Bigfoot, and he put out the instrumentals of that. Both of these you can find on streaming services and his Bandcamp page. If you want to follow the show on social media, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Anthony and Todd. If you want to support us on Patreon, it's patreon.com/The Anthony and Todd Show. Get some of those premium reward tiers. If you want to follow us personally, you can find me on Twitter at the Vincent Short. You can find Trevor on Twitter at Alistair McCallis. Today's episode was edited by Vincent Thomas Short and was executive produced by Dustin Cox. Until next time, guys, I'm Vincent Thomas Short, speaking for Trevor Abley. See you, boyos.